welcome to Open Tech Convo. I'm your host, Sarin Omarlo Nicolas, and today we have with us Adrian McInman discussing the first topic of a three-part series on creativity. Creativity is very important for business. However, I'm curious as to how common high levels of creativity really are. So let's start with a simple question. Are most people highly creative?
No, they're not. Children's attempts at creativity are usually described as crude, error-laden, and stereotyped, according to experts using quantitative rating scales. As for adults, the first thing I get them to do when they do my 2-day Facilitate Creativity course is spend 5 minutes creating something creative with a piece of paper. The attempts are usually unimaginative. There's very good reasons for these two findings, according to Roger Beaty's research. He scanned 163 people in a fMRI machine while they thought of creative ways to use an object, such as a sock. Those with the strongest connections in their default, salience, and executive networks generated the most creative ideas. Additionally, most people could not get these three brain areas to work at the same time, whereas creative people could. So, highly creative individuals have different brains from everyone else.
It sounds like you're saying that unlike variables such as intelligence and shoe size, which are normally distributed, placing the majority of people in the middle of such ranges, creativity is not normally distributed. Is that true?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Dean Simonton notes the vast majority of individuals have similar levels of creative ability, and only a small percentage are highly creative. For instance, he notes the generation of creative products is limited to a very small percentage of people. Typically, the top 10% of the most prolific producers in any field can be credited with more than half of the products made.
Can adults who are not able to activate their brain's default salience and executive networks at the same time become highly creative? In other words, can the majority of adults who don't have an ideal brain for creativity become more creative?
Yes, but it will require a lot of work and the use of valid techniques. For instance, let's take a look at a harmful technique, brainstorming, that is still used by businesses today. Many studies have shown that when people work individually with no interactions and then their performances are combined, they outperform brainstorming groups with regards to things like mean number of unique ideas created. Likewise, a 2015 study concluded brainstorming actually harms creative performance, resulting in a collective performance loss. So, don't use techniques that research says don't work.
So if I'm one of the majority who don't have an ideal brain for creativity, what can I do to become more creative?
First, become more open to new experiences. More than 10 research studies show that individuals open to new experiences tend to be more curious, imaginative, and creative. Therefore, question assumptions, become intellectually curious, and participate in new and novel experiences. Second, become happier. Researcher Teresa Amable has shown that happy individuals have the most creative moments at work. Third, become more persistent. The more you are driven to forego social relationships and economic well-being to create lasting works, the more likely you will be creative.
Are you saying that if you don't have high levels of these 3 personality traits, then you can't be highly creative?
I'm saying you are more likely to be highly creative if your brain has grown in a certain way anatomically. I'm also saying that you are more likely to be highly creative if you have consistently been open to new experiences, happy and persistent. And I'm also saying that the development of these personality traits and the brain anatomical structures go hand in hand to make creative thoughts more likely.
Is there anything adults with non-ideal brains for creativity can do if they don't think they can change their personality?
There are 2 effective ways to increase creativity temporarily. First, schedule solitude. Spending time by yourself stimulates your default mode network in your brain, which aids imagination. Hand in hand with solitude is being a little non-conforming. A study of more than 400 students found that the more conservative students had less creative hobbies or accomplishments, and their photo essays and drawings were judged as less creative. This is not surprising, as highly creative individuals question and reject traditions. Second, do moderately arousing activities that trigger positive emotions and allow for an engaged mind, like having a shower or walking. For instance, 72% of people have new ideas in a shower, which is a lot more than when they're at work.
Could you briefly sum up the research as to how to become more creative?
Sure, there are 2 key points. First, increase creativity permanently by becoming more open to new experiences, happier and more persistent. And secondly, increase creativity temporarily by questioning things in solitude and doing moderately arousing things that are engaging and generate positive emotions, such as having a shower or going for a walk.
Do you have any final thoughts about increasing creativity?
After eating, painter Salvador Dali would put a pen and notepad next to his armchair, a spoon in his hand, and a plate underneath the spoon. When he fell asleep, he'd be woken by the spoon hitting the plate, and then he would write down all the images that he was having. This technique allowed him to become aware of some very vivid images that he then turned into art. After your audience have finished this video, I challenge them to spend 5 minutes trying to make something creative with a piece of paper. Then they may like to ponder what Salvador Dali might have made. This may stimulate them to try the 3 personality changes and 2 temporary techniques that we've been discussing.